Hello everybody, my name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL Gameweek28 Deadline stream in partnership with FPL Team. And it's live. It is 5:32 PM UK time. We are 58 minutes away from the Gameweek28 Deadline stream. As per usual, I'll be trying to answer as many of your dilemmas as possible between now and the 6:30 PM UK time deadline. Before I get into the questions, let me take you through the graphics on screen, because that may answer many of the questions for you, including James, are you actually going to bench boost? Yes, I'm on it and it's active. 1 transfer rolled, 4 free transfers used. Kelleher is in for Dubravka, Virgil van Dijk for Julian Timber, Joachim Andersen for Omar Alderete, Dango Utara in for Enzo Fernandez. The team is Kelleher, Van Dijk, Gabriel, O'Reilly, Wilson, Fernandez, Otara, Rogers, Thiago, Captain Haaland, Vice Captain Ekitike. The bench boost is Verbruggen, Rice, Anderson, and Chow. Correct score predictions are on screen. That will rotate with my preference for captaincy this week. It is still Haaland over Ekitike, Salah, Thiago, Bruno Fernandes. That's my top 5. Bottom right hand corner, you'll see my predicted lineups for all 20 teams. The bottom ticker has all the flag players and next 5 fixtures as per FPL's FDR. And above that and directly below me is the benching dilemmas graphic, where there are 2 players together. The player with the tick is the preferred option to start. Lots of big name players on there this week. A running order left to right, pages 1 to 4. And you will find some goalkeepers on page 5 as well. That will rotate for you during the course of the stream. Right, let's just check that it is actually rotating, James. That would be very helpful. It is. Right, good news, good stuff. Got a bit stuck on the team news stream earlier. That's it. Right, that's the graphics done. If you're watching along live, smash a like, hit the sub button. It's all truly, truly appreciated. Remember, everyone, play it your way. Very best of luck. On bench boost, I just want to add, it wasn't the plan. It's kind of fallen into place for me. And I think the bench boost in itself, i.e. my 4 weakest players, Verbruggen, Rice, Anderson, Chow, is very strong. I am probably going to be negatively impacted if you ask me a bench boost question with 4 players that is weaker than that. I will try and remove my own decision because I still found it tough going to decide to go for it. I think at this moment it looks obvious to do it, but I can't help I wanted the biggest upside, but I think I've made the right decision. I'm happy with my decision. Right, let's go to questions. CMP is first. Says, hi, James. I currently have Verts and Dewsbury Hall in the 11. Enzo first sub, 0 free transfers. Should I take a hit to move Enzo out? If so, do you prefer Dango or Wilson? Yes, and Wilson. Neil Bez says, hey, mate, hope you're good. Can I just add on that though, CMP? Like, we don't really know how bad this Vert situation is. I didn't get the vibe from Arne Slot this morning that he thought he was going to be back for Tuesday. So, in all seriousness, I would probably sell Verts, mate. Neil Bez says, hey, mate, hope you're good. Hope you're good too. Hasselbank is wins, says James. Oh, here we go. Fucking Arsenal every week, mate. You're obsessed. With this awful Arsenal team now gifted a fortuitous path in the UCL, does Arteta have no excuses now? He has to deliver a big one this season, whether it be League or European Cup. Terrific. Yeah, look, they should get to the final. I mean, if they don't get to the semi-final, I would say that's a failure, but they will do. Adam says, which player would you prioritise bringing in for 1 free transfer? Ekitike, Van Dijk or Bumo? I assume the latter. You're correct. Simon Baker says, James, is it still possible that City and Palace play in 31? If so, what would need to happen for it to be feasible? Yep, it's very possible. There's 2 ways it can happen. The first is if Newcastle beat them in the FA Cup 5th round next weekend, then I think in the week, I will change the projection for the game to go back in there and for it to be arranged for FA Cup quarter-final weekend, which would still be game week 31, even though it's after the international break. If it's not announced in the week immediately afterwards, then I will change the projection again because I would expect an announcement fairly quickly. Also, there's the possibility, if that doesn't happen, that obviously if City and Crystal Palace both go out in the last 16 in Europe, then in theory, the Game Week 31 and Game Week 32 midweeks become open for the fixture, though I do think under that scenario that Game Week 32 would be more likely. It would also mean that Game Weeks 34 and 35 were open as well. D. Dot says, hi Jay, looking to bench boost this week, but I have Tarkowski versus Newcastle. I did plan to move Krupi to Thiago or Ekiteke, but would you keep Krupi for Sunderland at home and move Tarkowski to Chow, another good defender? No, it's like prioritizing the bench boost over what matters most for your team. And I would make Thiago or Ekiteke move first. What I tried to explain on the weekend today was, yes, part of my transfers here are impacting the bench boost, but they are massively making my team stronger for forthcoming weeks as well. You're making a transfer there effectively just to improve your bench to activate. I think it's way more important you get Thiago or Ekiteke. Bengal Brum says, hi James, why is no one considering Gakpo? I can answer that quite seriously and say ask a Liverpool fan. Huli Luis says, would you do Rice and Bowen to Wilson and Ekiteke with 2 free transfers, or just play Rice and Hill or Elliot Anderson roll into 3 free transfers? Personally, Bowen would go for me at this moment. It's just fixture play, and you know me, that's how I manage it. Rice, I'd be reluctant to sell, but I certainly understand it heading towards the blank. So, yeah, I'm okay with it and would make the moves. Mr. Trumpet says, hi, James. Evan Nilsson to Thiago. Yes. Mr. John B says, how close is Haaland Bruno captain decision? For me, it's not. It's not. I've got Bruno 5th. My preferences. I think United Palace may well be a low-scoring affair. Bruno only needs the one good return to return well, but I expect goals in the Leeds Manchester City game as well. For me, personally, it's not close this week. Mr. Samuelville says, Gu, Rice and Enzo for Dango, Thiago and Tavernier for a -4. Can also sell Timber instead of Rice, but already have Anderson and Hill. I don't like the Tavernier aspect of that. I think there's every chance that it will be a substitute this weekend and then be back in the team on Tuesday. That's how I foresee it, and I don't have him in my predicted lineup. So therefore, because of Gu, your effective -4 is just Rice and Enzo to Dango and Thiago -4. I think if there's an alternative to Tavernier, you should consider it, and then I'm kind of okay with it. Be even something like Anton Stack. Yeah, genuinely, like Leeds fixtures after this week are absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure on Tavernier at this moment. That's my honest assessment of that. Amanda Bergen says, hi James, on wildcard due to terrible luck with my team, would you pick Semenyo or Bumo planning on free hit 30? Oh, wow, that's a change, because on the weekend I put a draft together that would aim to bench boost in game week 30. So you must be looking at a drastically different wildcard under that scenario. I would strongly advise against free hit 30, Amanda. In seriousness, the one thing I won't be doing is activating the free hit anytime soon. It'll be getting used in 33 or 34, and I think that has to be the advice. Truthfully, I would go Semenyo first and foremost, but that may be impacted by the amount of other City, Arsenal, Palace players you have. Byron says, hi James, would you prefer to get Ekiteke or Dango in? Dango would be for Enzo, so one less player in 31, thanks. Ekiteke anyway, mate. Adam Sturdham says, Norwegian Fantasy opened its doors today. Are you interested, given the league is upcoming and uses the same engine as FPL? They also use different chips to FPL. Yeah, I know people play, it used to be called Tipperlagen. I don't know if it's called something else now. Litasarian as well. Ausvensaken. I've got the pronunciations butchered here. Apologies to our Scandinavian listeners. These games have been in existence for a very long time. It won't be for me, unfortunately, but very best of luck with it. Will Mercer says, hi James, you tempted at all by Thiago captain? I'm pretty set on him, but he doesn't seem to be getting much love. Scored twice in the home fixture and has pens always a 90-minute man. Yeah, and you can spin that narrative and say he hasn't scored for about 5 game weeks as well. So am I tempted by it? No. Mike says, hi James, thinking of going Enzo to Gordon instead of the lower priced options. What do you think of Gordon up to 33? I think the spacing of Newcastle's Champions League games, the fact they've landed with a Tuesday-Wednesday schedule is good news. That's very bad news, by the way, for Chelsea and Manchester City in game week 30. It's good news for Newcastle, and it's good news for someone like Gordon, so I imagine he plays the majority of the games. Yeah, I don't hate it. Whether he's going to stay in this OOP position against sides like Sunderland at home, Palace away and stuff like that, I would say 31, 32. I think that's very difficult to foresee at the moment. I do think he'll probably play up front again tomorrow. I don't mind it as a differential. Just a reminder that he hasn't scored a non-penalty home goal in the Premier League for around about 20 months. No, that's an exaggeration. 14 months, sorry. But yeah, I don't mind it. he would have been of interest to me. It just doesn't quite work with what I've got, but I don't mind it. Eddie Joe Robinson says, "Hey James, what are your thoughts on DCL to Thiago? I can get away with benching DCL this week. My other forwards are Haaland, Nekateke, got 5 free transfers. Cheers. If I was a Dominic Calvert-Lewin owner, I don't think I'd be selling him at the moment. Them fixtures after this one, and again, I do think there'll be goals in the Leeds City game. Great. I'd be holding on to him at the moment, actually." Sean G says, "Hi James, hope you're well. Ignore if this is on the dilemmas, but bench one of Senesi, Joachim Anderson, Krupi or Elliot Anderson. They're all there except for Senesi. You can just replace him for James Hill. Best of luck, Sean." Stuart Day says, "Hi James, greetings from sunny Dominican Republic. Would you do Rice or Enzo for Harry Wilson? Can bench who I keep over the next few, and Enzo useful in 31. Don't want to be benching Rice regularly. I can understand that a few are going to get pushed into that this week, and I would have been pushed into that basically, if not bench boosting as well. What's your impact to 31? You are right, Enzo's more useful to 31. I think you may also make the case that Enzo's useful in 30, but as I've just said, I think that's really dangerous now. Chelsea playing PSG Wednesday and Tuesday with a Newcastle game in the middle. Yeah, I'm not massively keen on that. City 32. It's like holding it for the body. Listen, I owned Enzo. Didn't do what was hoped in the 24 to 27 period. I think he was a little bit unfortunate. But for me, fixture man, again, it's a sell for me. Shaz says, "Hi, James. Hope you're well, mate. Would you do Pedro to Thiago, Reinders to Wilson/Dango, and Munoz to Virgil from -4? Have double Manchester United attack? Thanks." Yes, but I wouldn't do the -4 at the end for the 2 defenders. I know what you're saying. You've got Munoz going up against Virgil van Dijk. Let's be honest, Daniel Munoz was never in your squad for defensive stuff anyway. He was in for offensive stuff. So Van Dijk as a -4 instead of Munoz would be a no. The other 2, yeah, all day long. Yago says, "Hi James, is Verts a sell?" It sounds like it, yeah. Unbelievably. I mean, Arne Slot just did not sound confident at all about the situation. So for me, yes. Milan Dogs has got 4 FTs, could get to this bench boost. Dubravka, Santiago conflict, Rice, Joachim Anderson, Van Heck, in a similar situation as yours, but got Rayan and double Arsenal defence. Yay or nay? Cheers, all the best. Yeah, once I started playing, I was like, "Oh, I can move Dubravka on here." I mean, look, it is on paper, I would say a little bit weaker than mine, but not by a lot. I think Van Heck, that's okay for this week. I think it's probably a play it, to be honest. I'm not looking at Verbrugge and expecting returns, to be very honest with you. I think that's probably a 2-pointer. So therefore, I think you're probably similar, and I'd say probably do it, yeah. I also don't mind the confliction so much of bench boost versus 11. I know it would be ideal to have 15 players who weren't playing against each other. Inevitably, in a double game week, that will happen. I just think ultimately, strip it away. What you're asking yourself is, my 4 shittest players, is this the week where that gets the most points? And if the answer to that is yes, the confliction shouldn't matter. He got a 5-pointer against Tottenham despite conceding twice, right? I mean, if you landed with that, you'd be over the moon. Next up is Neil Bez. 2 free transfers went early on Rayan and Wilson. Zubimendi and Enzo out. Anderson, DCL, Rodon on bench. Verts in the 11, tempted by a -8 to get in Salah and Thiago for Verts and Haaland. Move cap from Robot to Salah. For me, it's a strong no. I can tell you now that I'll be monitoring this situation very closely, and in game week 30, I may look at Haaland to Salah. But at this moment, no. And certainly not for -8. Jay Barker says, "Evening, James. Do I just get on with it and sell Rice for Wilson now rather than wait for close to 31? To dare is to do, right? You want some confirmation bias? You can have it. I think that's Rorid CS. Sorry, Chalobah to Hill and upgrade Miley to Dango Wilson to play 3-4-3, or Chalobah straight to Van Dink and stick with 4-3-3. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, I think the upgrade, and my slight preference is with Harry Wilson, as I've been clear. Ricky Saunders is in. My Tottenham correspondent says, "Hello, gorgeous. Timber and Rice out." Yeah, fuck them. Out for Wilson and VVD, or Timber and Enzo out for Wilson and Kanate. No, I'd take the VVD route, Ricky. I think you know that's the answer. Eddie Joe Robinson says, hey, due to a lack of funds, do you prefer Canate and Wilson Dango or Virgil and Rayan? Cheers. I think that view would be Van Dijk will outscore Canate. Those with the midfielders, we're not sure really, are we? So I prefer that you take the Rayan route there, I think. Adam Sturdham says, besides Haaland, do you think all of City, Chelsea, Newcastle and Liverpool avoid given fixture congestion and fatigue? Not Newcastle so much, and also not Liverpool. I think, again, Liverpool have also got the Tuesday-Wednesday rather than the Wednesday-Tuesday. Either side of game week 30, so I think that's okay. Liverpool don't have the depth, really, to piss about with their team much either. I think for City and Chelsea, there's a wariness. Yeah. Yeah, like if you were looking to buy O'Reilly or Semenyo, to say I don't own Semenyo, if I'd have been looking to buy them this week, I'd been really put off. I said that on the weekend this morning. If City landed with that, I put a draft together and even made it clear. I was like, yeah, but if City get the Wednesday, Tuesday, and it's Madrid, not sure about that. And I've just said about maybe moving Haaland on in 30, be a gamble, but could be the way I end up going. Next up is Angus Chow. Hi, James. Would you risk starting Tavernier ahead of Enzo? Would I? Yeah, I probably would. Yeah. I wouldn't expect Suddle from Enzo anyway. So would I risk it? Yeah, I probably would. Yashwanti says, hello, James. My attack is Haaland, Ekiteke, Thiago, Rice, Bruno, Wirtz, and Diane Wilson. Is Wirtz to sell? Benches and Diane Senesi. Hide him on the bench or sell to one of Bumo, Gordon, Dango. I think it's a sell, mate. I think it's a sell. Frederick Hertz says, hi James, contemplating ways to make FPL fresh again. Do you have tips for creating one's own FDR or what could be a cool dogma to challenge oneself? One could even introduce an element of randomness. I mean, my ticker isn't rated on an FDR of 5, it's rated across 10. And that will fluctuate, not week on week, but I update it very regularly in terms of the difficulty of the teams. So I do it out of 10, a metric of 10. Rather than 5. I look at home or away results quite a bit. Form is considered. Continued strength and trustworthiness of an opponent. So if a Liverpool had a run like they had early, okay, at some point, okay, then maybe they're not going to challenge for the title, but we don't expect them to like be a green fixture all of a sudden. So I use bookies odds a little bit for that, but I use a lot of just general results and my own opinion for that. So yeah, make your own one. It massively helps me. I don't look at anybody else's other than my own personally. Mladiv Rat says Ekiteke, Dango, Hill for Munoz, Rice and Go. No Liverpool coverage at the moment. This means no Virgil until 32 wildcard. Sitting at 5 free transfers. Overall 1k. Nicely done. Yeah, I don't mind the moves. They're okay, mate. Hiradi says, hi James, do I sell Enzo to Wilson? Bench Anderson and play Rice, or sell Rice to Wilson, bench Enzo this week and play Anderson in 4 at the back. Lean towards keeping Enzo as he plays blank game with 31 thoughts. So I've sold Enzo and kept Rice. These moves could have been, and now I get it, Rice obviously looks better on a bench boost, but these moves would have obviously been possible if I'd sold Rice instead. And I'll hide Enzo this week and continue. Yeah, honestly, I just think them fixtures are rough as hell for Chelsea now. And I think you'll keep getting tempted every week to think, oh, I want to look at something else. I'd move him on. Milan Dog says also, if you knew right now that City would lose to Newcastle in the FA Cup, would you change your mind on doing the bench boost now? Cheers from Canada. No, wouldn't make a difference. Wouldn't make a difference. Because under that circumstance, I don't think City double in 34. If that happens, because I think there's every chance the game would go into 31. And therefore, obviously, their game with Burnley stays in 34. So I don't massively see what difference that would make, actually. The bench boost in itself is kind of more like less about City. I mean, which City player am I going to put on a bench? I'm probably not, am I? So it doesn't really impact it at all, mate. Yash B says, hey, James, would you suggest selling Enzo or Potts? Enough money in the bank for Dango. My other mids are Dyer, Rice and Bruno. Don't really block any future plans. Thank you and all the best for your bench boost. So this one's different, right? Enzo is more useful to you than Potts. So that seems very straightforward. Amen says, hi, James. Hope you're doing great, mate. Who would you bench out of Rice, Timber, Wilson and Anderson? I have Gabriel's Arsenal defence cover. Thanks, mate. They are all on the benching dilemmas, my friend. The answer will be Joachim Anderson. Neil Bez says, get those likes in, lads and gals. Get them likes in. Let's see. How many of you have smashed a like so far? Oh, wow, guys. Not even 20% of you have smashed a like. Come on. It's free content. It doesn't cost. Hit the fun button, please, guys. Look, I'm going to press a button that skips the ads. Look how kind I am. AG says, hi, James. Who's the better buy in 29, VVD or Anderson? Worth doing Calafiori to VVD for -4 now, or just play Bijou, Chalobah and wait? That's different. That's a rare one. I would do it. You got no idea if Calafiori is going to play. Your potential replacement players are playing the best two teams in the league, respectively. And Virgil van Dijk is at the beginning of a very good run. Yeah, I would take the -4 for VVD under your scenario, mate. J23 says start the Bravka or Henderson. Also have attackers playing on both opposite teams. Henderson, expert at penalties, though you wouldn't expect him to save a Bruno Fernandes one, admittedly. Burnley maybe slightly more likely to shut Brentford out. I think I'd go Henderson. Close that. Close. Nylon says, yes, James, hope you're well. Don't own either Thiago or Ekiteke. Willing to get rid of Bowen for one. Who would be the priority? 2 free transfers. For me, Ekiteke. Yeah. Ayrton Senior says, would you take out and die for Wilson, Dango, Rayan for a -4? Everton don't look like they're clicking, but want a bench boost in 29. And the answer's no, because Ndiaye's got Burnley at home. So you want your gain to be immediate. And then you're looking at a player that's probably weaker in 29. Truthfully, which one of Wilson, Dango, Rayan is stronger in 29 than Illiman and Ndiaye? None of them. Probably none of them. So the answer's no. Jay Barker says, can you order these in your preference, please? Van Heck, Maguire, Enzo, Krupi. I presume this is in terms of starting the game. Krupi, Maguire, Van Heck, Enzo. Simon Baker says, James, what league position would Spurs be in if Big Pat Jennings had been in goal this season? He'd have been busy. I'm going to presume you mean a peak Big Pat Jennings, the best goalkeeper to ever play for Tottenham Hotspur, rather than the giant but aging man that he is now. Where would Tottenham finish with Big Pat in goal? Mid-table, probably. Yeah, I mean, it was that good as a goalkeeper, right? Talking about one of the greatest British goalkeepers, if not the greatest of all time, right? So, yeah, mid-table. I'd like to think you'd have got us up to mid-table. Yago says Chalobah to VVD or Enzo to Dango if you had to pick one. Chalobah to VVD, I think, yeah. Mindy says 7 shots for O'Reilly across his last 2 starts. Do you think he keeps the advanced role? Yes, in the immediate, in the short term. But it's not something I see lasting for the rest of the season. Juki says, enjoyed your bench boost plans on the Weekender episode. Thank you. He says, for teams planning to wildcard in 32, bench boost in 33 and free hit 34, would you say a 20-30 point loss is the worst case scenario and what's the ceiling? Do you mean a loss for me? Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm... Thanks, Pete. I don't know why that's getting stuck. It got stuck earlier. But it's on the move again. Sorry if the benching dilemmas were stuck. Cheers, Pete. Love you, mate. And I'm just not as beautiful as you, mate. Shame about your back injury, though. What was the question? Oh, points difference. Would you say a 20-30 point loss is the worst case scenario and what's the ceiling? I'm not sure I understand. Do you mean for me in 33 itself because I won't have a bench boost? It's difficult to say. But I'd think if I free hit it and get the best 11 players I could get, I'd hope that would maybe be competitive with those who've had to jump a week earlier and, I've got to make this concession because I've got to get this player on the bench boost. I wouldn't have to think about that. I could skin it out, right? So I'd hope that if I could get the best possible 11, if I free hit in 33, that I could probably lose a bit, but hopefully not by too much. There's a possibility, by the way, that I don't free hit in 33 and don't wildcard in 33 and I just land and go, this is all right. That's also a possibility. I probably wouldn't put it at 20 to 30. Delicious lemon sauces. Hi, James. With a view to bench boost this week, what are the pros and cons of Kelleher versus Leno? Will likely be up to 33. Other goalkeeper, Dubravka. Thanks and good luck. So, yeah, I thought about this. So, one of our patrons recommended that I went Leno and Hill rather than Kelleher and Anderson, which is definitely a different way to do it. A key point for me was not wanting Hill to play against Fernandes, and it's not beyond reason that I have other Manchester United players in Game Week 31 is a possibility as well. So I didn't want that as an impact. On Leno himself, I just don't think that he's got the high ceiling of Kelleher. Kelleher is great at pens. He's great at them, isn't he? He's say 4 this season. So I just think that that's a little bit more of a standout for me. And I prefer Anderson over the fixtures. Anderson to Hill personally as well. Anderson's a player I've kind of long time thought I'd want. So I felt that with Leno, if I end up with Leno rather than Anderson, I wasn't ending up with the best Fulham. And you can make a case to say, well, you've gone some Brentford, not Bournemouth. But I think a lot of people want to go Brentford, but I don't know which defender to get. This is too much of a difficult call. I agree. So I just preferred Kelleher because I thought it was a higher ceiling there. Maybe Leno's floor might be a little bit higher. I looked through Kelleher's returns. There are lots of 2s in there. There's a couple of 1s and stuff. But I think he's more likely to get the haul. So that's been the preference for myself. Also a little bit more useful for 32 in maybe some people's scenarios. Not particularly for mine because I've got Verbruggen going to Burnley. But yeah, I just had a little bit of a preference for Kelleher. I prefer 30 as well. Which Verbruggen away to Sunderland. I like Kelleher at home to Wolves. It just stood out more for me. Maybe Rockerdale take another penalty. You never know your luck. Luke, but it's close. I would say it's very close. Had I had Kelleher or Joachim Anderson have been injured today, in truthfulness, I would have been quite happy to go Leno and Hill as an alternative. Luke Stevenson says, which set of transfers would you do? Timber to VVD and Enzo to Stack, Timber to Anderson, that's Elliot, and Enzo to Wilson, or Rice to Wilson, Enzo to Rayan. Me personally, so that's not Elliot Anderson, it's Timber to Anderson, so it's got to be Joachim Anderson. Let's get our E's and our O's right, guys. Yeah, Wilson would have been a priority for me. So Timber to Joachim Anderson and Enzo to Wilson. Toffee Man Mike says, hey James, loving your work as always. Would you swap Chalobah or Mukeli for Malik Chow this week? Like and subscribe, guys. No, look, I've got Chow, but I wouldn't be chasing after him. They tend to concede the odd goal. I'm not actually expecting him to do anything for me, particularly this weekend. So, no, Chow wouldn't be my choice. There's plenty of alternatives. Joachim Anderson, James Hill. There'll be others as well. Canate, maybe if you can get there. I would prefer all of them to buy over Malik Chow personally. Harry B says, yes, James, would you start Timber or Hall? Cheers. Timber for me. Pat says, best rogue captain choice. Rogue captain choice is a Fulham player. Be that Raul Jimenez or Harry Wilson. Tanky says, afternoon, James, non-FPL rated, but you are making the trip to the Metropolitano. Yep. Hotel, flights, it's all booked, mate. I'll be there. Andy Mack, you thought I wasn't busy enough today. Andy Mack says, happy Friday, Jimbo. Bench one of Krupi, Rice, Gay. Ooh. As I said, I think there'll be goals in the Leeds Man City game, personally. I'm gonna say Gay. Yeah. Sorry, that might be wrong, but that's not only do I think there'll be goals, I think Leeds might get something as well. Billy T Production says, yes, Jimbo, simple question. I'm getting rid of Sarr and wildcarding in 32. Who do you prefer out of Dango or Wilson? You can spot the people who have listened to the content already this week and who haven't, or who have heard it and just not let it go in their ears. That's not a criticism. I've been very clear this week. Harry Wilson for me would be the priority. Ryan Max says 5 threes, but no ideas. Paralysed by the choices. So no questions. Smash the like, sub to the page, and have a great week. Ryan, don't burn the transfer. There will be something you can make your life better with, even if it is a goalkeeper transfer. Bruno Fernandez Con, would you do Timber and Mane to Thiago and Hill? Would mean benching Hill. Yes, probably on a path towards 31. Alex MJ says, Champions League and Conference League fixtures around game week 30. Would these affect who you would sell this week out of Timber, Chalobah, Munoz? Cheers. I wouldn't worry about Munoz playing Larnaca. Well, Glasner doesn't know much about rotating. And that's their home leg first as well, aren't they, Crystal Palace? Chalobah, a little bit of concern. Yeah, Timber wouldn't, not huge concern. A little bit of concern about Timber in midweek, actually. So Munoz not a concern from that perspective. Timber a little one. Chalobah 30 could be a problem when you look at the other fixtures. Yeah, you don't want that. Spooky Sorcerer says, play Hill, Rice or Joachim Anderson. They're all on the bench in dilemmas, mate. Adam Sturdham says, which league in European football do you think is the next up and coming outside the top 5? It seems Norwegian and Polish football teams are significantly improving, as well as Wisla coming back. Is that Wisla Krakow, is it? We played them in 08-09 season. Bizarrely, one day Ramos played Ledley King against Wisla Krakow rather than the Premier League, each to their own. No wonder he got the sack. I don't know enough about the other European leagues. But I know there's quite a bit of model data-driven stuff in some of the clubs in Scandinavia. So looking at what Bodo have done, can that inspire others from Sweden and Denmark, perhaps, for example? There's always good talent coming out of Belgium, it seems, very recently as well, over the last decade or so. So I don't follow the leagues close enough to give you a good enough answer, mate. Daniel Grelsky says, hi, James. 1 free, 1 million in the bank. I need to drop one of Keane or Alderete or Timber. Who should I buy? Plan is to dead end 31, wildcard 32. Cheers. I don't have Michael Keane in my predicted Everton lineup. I don't think he's in their best 11. I think there's every chance Garner goes back into midfield. O'Brien right back. Mikalenko left back. Branthwaite into centre back. That's what we saw previously. So Michael Keane's the one I'd move on first and foremost, mate. Uros Milicevic says, hi, James. You said Chelsea players could be useful in 30-31 depending on Champions League scheduling. What's your take now on holding or selling their assets after today's draw and the Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday turnaround? Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Doesn't mean it will be bad, but it's on the face of it. It's not good. It's PSG as well, so you're going to spend time without the ball on that, aren't you? It's not great, mate. When did I say that they'd be good 30-31? Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. Newcastle at home, Everton away. Like, if you're holding an Enzo, I get the temptation. Yeah, I think for me, that would have sealed the deal to sell Enzo for me, personally. Although, were I not bench boosting, he would have just sat on the bench for me this week. Dan Marson says, love the bench boost. Good luck. Start one of Rayan or Rice and Anderson or Vandenberg. Ignore if on dilemmas. Thank you, Dan. Rayan and Rice are there. Joachim Anderson, Vandenberg. Answer is probably Vandenberg, but you know that Joachim Anderson will play, so that one's quite close. I would say I would expect... I suppose I would be surprised if Vandenberg didn't start. So I would probably go Vandenberg. In terms of Rayan Rice, they're right next to each other on the bench in dilemmas, so that'd be an easy one to find, mate. Kay Lankin says, considering a bench boost with Dubravka, Hill, Elliot Anderson and Shrewsbury Hall, doesn't feel strong enough, but worried with low squad value that I will struggle to improve on it later. What do you think? To have all chips left? Ultimately, depends what lands in the... I mean, you could have Leeds as an example. I've mentioned Leeds on the weekender and other bits recently has been maybe a problem for wildcard 32, bench boost 33. But if it's just Leeds, let's say we have Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City and Leeds as the FA Cup semi-finalists. Leeds, perfect. A little bit of Leeds and Bournemouth for your bench. So then you've got, because they're scheduled to play each other, so that probably gets brought forward. And then suddenly you can look at it and you go, right, you've got Goodmanson, Hill, Darlow, Stack. Job done. It's all over. And you can bench them all in 32 and that's great. Perfect. I can't tell you that's going to happen or not, but I think there are ways. My point being is there are ways that you can get there. No, I don't think that is strong enough as a bench boost, unfortunately. Johnny 5X says, James, good juju to you on your bench boost. Thank you, mate. I need it. If that's a good thing, I'm not sure. Elliot Storvik says, evening, which duo? Rayan, VVD, Dango. Hang on. Rayan, VVD / Dango, Kanate / Szoboszlai Anderson. What's the split here, mate? So, this is not easy to. There's 3 midfielders and there's 3 defenders. So what's the? I'm not sure I understand what the split is here, mate. So I think the question might be VVD and Notara or Konate and Szoboszlai. I think that's what you're asking. VVD and Utara. That's my answer, I think. Zem says, good luck on bench boost. Thank you. BT says, Enzo to Wilson to bench Munoz or roll 1 FT and would still have exact of transfer remaining to play 11 and 31. Yeah, I'll do it. FC Alez FC says, hi James, would you sell Timber or Munoz for Van Dijk? Other defenders are Hill, Gabriel and Estev. Low. Plan is to wildcard 32. Cheers. Might not be when you get there. Just warning you. I've given a few out recently. Let's see how it lands. Yeah, I would get Van Dijk in, mate, personally. Yeah. And I just think because of the blank, yeah, probably Timber go. Dan Bin says, all the best with the bench boost, James. Bench dilemma, start 1 from Konsa, Rice, Elliot Anderson, Rice. And or upgrade Goodmanson to Hill and bench boost with Dubravka and the 2 not chosen to start from first question. Sorry if confusing. I think I've got it. But a kind of key point here would be for me, I wouldn't move Goodmanson. Again, if anything Leeds I've got, I'd be very tempted to hold on beyond this week. So does it land better again in, say, 30 just by keeping Goodmanson? Maybe he'll become someone else in 30. He goes to Burnley and Leeds have got Palace away. It's all right. Is that better? I don't know. But I just wouldn't be keen on maybe moving Goodmanson on at this moment, personally. Nicholas says, James, who would you bench? Harry Wilson or Alex Scott? Do you know what I did the other day? I had a look through Alex Scott's returns because his name comes up a hell of a lot on these streams. I'm a bit baffled by it. I really like the footballer, Tottenham boy as well. Sign him up in the summer if we stay up. Good player. I'm a bit baffled by it. And I'm definitely baffled by the idea that you'd want to bench Harry Wilson for it. So there's a note in the description, always on the Deadline stream videos, which says, ask a silly question, expect to get a silly answer. So I'm not going to give you one. Eros Milicevic says, the Dango, Wilson and Rayan conundrum seems to be a recurring theme this week. Is it sensible to buy 2 or even 3 of these budget midfielders? Well, I'm going to land with 2. And they're going to end up as part of a rotation probably with maybe Morgan Rogers, to be honest. There's every chance they'll both start for me over Morgan Rogers in 29 and 30. That is a possibility. Although I am aware, I know what I get with Rogers, and it's the minutes, particularly in 29 with a home fixture against Chelsea. You could look at it that way. But if you're downgrading, let's say you're going Rice and Enzo to Wilson and Rayan, right, what's the consequences? And ultimately, yeah, do you know what? This feels like one of them where there probably will be. One of them will probably do really well and the other 2 probably not so much. And you'll have to land on the right one. But I have a clear preference for Wilson. My order would be Wilson, Utara, Rayan in that order. If you want to listen back to the Weekender and leave the stream, me and David spent 5-10 minutes talking about those options. Excuse me. And we also added, David added Szoboszlai into the mix of that conversation as well. So my preference is Wilson. I've been quite clear on that. Joel Embid says, hello everybody. We are 20 minutes from deadline, by the way, guys. For our patrons watching along live, please do drop me a tag on Slack if we've got anything in terms of any team news or anything knocking about. Please double check sources. I don't suppose we're expecting much from Wolves Villa tonight. I imagine Toti Gomez comes in for Krejci, and I would think that Jadon Sancho probably comes in for Leon Bailey. Those are the only 2 predicted changes I've got, and I can't put in the right password for my bloody mobile phone because I've got stupid sausage fingers. Right. Statis, my friend, says, hi James, having Xhaka, Barnes as 7th, 8th attacker. I want to get Dango or Thiago and do Timber to Konate or Brentford defender, or max 4.1 if I go for Thiago. What do you think? I think there's a lot going on here, mate. So sounds like James Hill and Thiago to me, mate, is what that sounds like. I think so. That's what it sounds like. Dragon Yoski says, hey James, which combination do you prefer? Thiago and VVD or Ekateke and Senesi or Hill? Money not a problem. Likely game week 32 wildcard. Cheers. Well, Thiago could certainly match or even do better than Ekiteke. I think VVD is a standout versus the others, so Thiago and VVD. Shivna Atra says, is it a good idea to sell Chalobah and Enzo when they play in 31, but VVD and Ryan can make up points till then? What do you think? Yeah, they've also got fixtures in 31. Again, I think you're possibly looking for just a little bit of bias for me to say yes by the sounds of it, so yes. God, there's a lot of questions in. I'm definitely not going to get through them all. Where are we? Gosh, sorry, I've lost my place. No, I found it. Jerry Damayu. Hello, Jimbo. I've used 1 out of 2 FTs to do Enzo to Harry Wilson. Would you use the other FT plus 1.4 to do Rice to Dango? I'm on 303k and want to finish top 100k. Good luck this week, mate. No, I don't think I would. I definitely don't think there's any urgency to be moving Declan Rice on. Do you know what? I should probably power through these a lot quicker. So sorry if I give short shrift for people. Thank you, John Howes, if you're watching along, mate. Liam says, best memories of Aaron Lennon and Ekoto. Benoit was the king of shielding the ball backwards and falling over and winning free kicks. I like Benoit. He didn't give a shit about football. I loved Azar. His little legs went like the clappers. Final ball and finishing, not great, but always give you a threat. You could feel the ground rise when he got the ball and you knew he'd try and take the opposition on. Loved Aaron Lennon. Jim says, safety brethren, does part of you not want Tottenham to get relegated so we'll be forced to sell those players that you hate? I'm hoping that Tottenham stay up and sell a lot of those players anyway, mate. LFC says, is taking Enzo out worth a -4 for Elliot Anderson? Sided with no, and I agree with you. Shane O'Slar says, start Wilson or Semenyo. That's still Semenyo. But I'd find a place to get Harry Wilson in. Seth says, hi, mate. Would you bench Rodgers or Tavernier? Tavernier. Also, would you bring Ekiteke in for a -4 for Liverpool's good run or bring DCL in next week for free? Would be upgrading Goo, ready for 31. I would go Ekiteke on that route. Yeah, I know. I think it's a difference between holding the Leeds player and saying, we're not sure to sell now. It's close. Yeah, there's grounds for Ekiteke -4 there. Andreas Sonidades says, hello, James. Love the content. Would you Rice to Wilson for a hit? No. Ricky Donoghue, start one of Pedro, Enzo, Joachim Anderson. Thanks, James. Pedro, especially if I only had one Arsenal defender. Smooth Nightmare, no question today. Smash the like. Thanks for the content, James. You're welcome. Have a good weekend. Noel Cummins says, hey, James, just curious, did Ryan come into your thinking or is Dango clearly better option? Yeah, of course he was in my thinking. A lot of the influence actually was kind of as per the weekender and actually looking at Gameweek 32 and seeing Utawa playing Everton and Rayan playing Arsenal away. I think Utawa's got about 30 fixture as well. I think across 28 and 30 it's quite close in the sense that they play each other. I'd say the other 2 weeks Utawa is a little bit better than Rayan. Yeah, absolutely considered, mate. Absolutely considered. If you've got a preference for Rayan, I've got no reason to put you off, mate. Spooky Sorcerer. Rice, Timber, Enzo to VVD, Dango, Semenyo have 5 free transfers. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Alex Waterbaby, my friend, says, morning, mate. He's on the other side of the world, so it's bloody early where he is. Hello, Alex. Do you prefer Rice to Bumo or Timber to Virgil or both from -4? I think Timber to Virgil for me, mate. Andrew Clark says, evening, James. Last free transfer after doing Timber, Enzo, Bowen to VVD, Dango, Thiago, 1.7 million in the bank. Roll. Rice to Szoboszlai or Potts up to Wilson and bench boost. Wilson and Anderson, Chow and Dubravka. It's close. Yeah, I'll do that. Up to Wilson and bench boost. Yeah, keep the free hit in the wild card. And so says, hi, James. Who scores more points over the next 4 games? It's Sade or Dango? Thanks. The sensible answer here is to say Dango, but it should be Sade, right? You're paying an extra price for him. Does Sade definitely start this weekend? Should be, needs to be Sade for the price, right? I'm not convinced it will be. User says, who would move Enzo, Chalobah, Anderson to Wilson, Van Dijk, Shopasi? Cheers. Yeah, sure. Charlotte Frost says, yes, James, bench 1, Timber or Kroopy. Good luck on bench boost. I, with that fixture, would probably chance Kroopy over Timber. For clarity, I would not chance him over Gabriel. FPL Alex says, hi, James. Is Thiago a must? We don't do must here on this stream, mate. Will be a challenge to make him fit, or if I only go one Brentford, who could give him a run for his money? No Brentford, even a fault. Yes, Brentford, mate. Look, chances are they're 7th in the league, truthfully. It's not meant disrespectfully. They'll probably finish lower than that. It's the truth. It's unlikely to finish higher. Finished 7th. Brilliant. European football. Love it. Can you take on Brentford? Yeah. We had this discussion, I think, on the Patreon Q&A recently about going without Fulham defence over this period. Like, can you take it on? Yeah, of course you can. It's not like you're taking on like peak Salah, Haalands and stuff like that, is it? Can you take on Brentford? You can take Brentford on, mate. Rhino says, hi, mate. Would you start Dubravka this week over Sanchez or even consider selling Sanchez? Also, do I bench Krupi, Szoboszlai or Enzo? Enzo out of that. Good luck, everyone. Smash the like. Thank you. Would I consider selling Sanchez? Yeah. I wouldn't sell Dubravka for someone to go with Sanchez. But moving on Sanchez, yeah, I'd consider. Also, even if you've used the wild card, I'd consider that. Chelsea's fixtures till the end of the season are not great. So yeah, I'd happily move it on. Defo Lee Sharp says, hi James, bench Dallo, Cunha Munoz this week, starting Bruno, Dallo. Undercover Idiot says, evening James, on wildcard and bench boost 29, need a cheap defender for bench boost who also covers 31. I'm thinking Keane, no. Cash, Concert or another Fulham to sit alongside Anderson. Anyone I've missed, smash a like, people. Don't chance Fulham with the midweek fixture, Sunday, Wednesday turnaround. It's not like people like Robinson, Castagnier or Cuenca can't just suddenly come into the team for a game. They might. So the answer is Cash. Don't love that though. Say 29, say for 29 and 31. Yeah. On wildcard, but need a cheap defender for bench boost who also covers 31. I'm going to say Goodmanson, mate. Sunderland and Brentford at home. I get you, Goodmanson might be conflicting 31, but I have to put money in the bank as well, mate. It's fine. Also, James Hill, home games. It's fine. Go one of the cheaper ones, I think, mate. Ollie Wernoskin says, why no talk about Gordon? Perfect explosive differential pick. Go on in, buy him. Sam McCreary says, hi, James. How do you think the Vert's injury affects Ekitike for the next few? Thinking a captain this week. Might be good, might be bad. It's like, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Like, yeah, it might be like that, right? You might find that the passes come to him a bit quicker, truthfully. Jimmy Stewart says, hey, James, bench 2 out of VDV, Munoz, Cherky, Sarr, Krupi. Have to start one of the defenders. It'll take a 4-point hit to go from Cherky to Wilson, then just bench one of the others. I'm tempted by that. Cherky's going to keep giving you problems, right? If Cherky don't go now, it should go next. If your decision is Wilson next week, then my advice to you is get him in for Tottenham at home. And Wilson says, have you ever seen a more uneven Champions League draw than the one we got today? I would be amazed if Arsenal don't make the final. Yeah, moving on. Terrific. Hussam Bali says, good evening, James. Free transfers. Sarr, Tavernier and Dewsbury Hall are in my starting 11. And Enzo is on my bench. Would you sell Enzo for Wilson? Yeah. FPL Glasto, big up the Bruno captain, massive. Marin Vukak says, hi, James. Who'd start, Munoz or Chow? Munoz. If they were both sitting on my bench, Munoz would be sitting ahead of Chow on that benching list, mate. So 10 minutes to deadline, guys. Again, patrons, if you're watching along, if we've got anything from a team news perspective, please do drop me a tag on Slack and we'll get it shared with the community here. And Sonma says, hi, James. Am I mad if I bench Rodgers for Evan Nilsson? Not mad. Ultimately, if you've got Evan Nilsson now, but my advice would be sell Evan Nilsson. Even with the fixtures, is frustrating fantasy asset. I'd just move him on, personally. But is that mad on the face of it? No, not at all. It's probably even the right decision. The Blubber King says, I transferred Rayan in for Enzo. Hope it's a good one. Good luck. Tangerine Chris says, 2 free transfers, 3 planned moves before 31. Timber to VVD or Mane to Ekiteke this week. But need Palmer out to fund the latter. Right to prioritise getting Ekiteke or VVD this week if it means losing Palmer. I'm going to say yes. Marsh FPL says, which 2 would you start out of Timber, Chow and Hill? I'm playing Gabriel as well. Timber and Hill. Teram Jed says, hi James, would you sell Enzo for Wilson for a hit or play Enzo or Richards or Mane? I'd take the hit. David Oliver says, evening James, if money was no issue, would you prefer Dango or Sade? I'm thinking of going Sade captain. I would advise against that, mate. We can't even be certain he starts. Might play great. I don't think it's worth the risk. DTAF says, here straight from the weekender, went for the groin pick of Rayan for Enzo. Here's hoping he performs. Garlic says, start Wilson or Elliot Anderson. Thanks for your help. Hoping this wildcard goes. Have you seen who Wilson's playing? Samuel Sports says, would you consider bringing Szoboszlai in seeing as it seems like Verts is likely to miss the next two and is one of the few that seems nailed on for 90 minutes. Do you know what I think that is? I think that's a classic case. It's fine, by the way. It's a classic case of, I wanted Liverpool. And I understand that. I really, really understand that. But I actually think that Wilson, Utara, and Rayan are probably all better choices. Okay. SJ Emerson says, evening James, Enzo out for Wilson seems fairly set for me. Any worth taking a hit for VVD in for Chalobah Timber? No transfers needed for 31. Both VVD and Wilson would start every week until 31. So you're trying to justify it by multiple weeks over Chalobah. Yeah, okay, I get that. Proceed. Pudge says, howdy from Texas. I only have Thiago from Brentford. Who is the biggest problem that needs selling from Enzo, Rice, Cunha, or just roll and start two of those three? The answer is Enzo. D-Taff says, checking benching dilemmas. Is it Chow to start over Van Heck, James? No. No. Forest struggle for goals, don't they? I think there's every chance to get something. Everton do tend to score, I think, in away games. So just slight preference Van Heck. If you prefer it the other way, it would be close. I couldn't fit everyone on this week. Honestly, I needed about 10 pages of it. Jesus says, would you bench boost Dubravka, Wilson, Jockey Madison, Richards still have wildcard free hit, no triple captain? Cheers. Oh, God. If Fulham do badly, it's dead, isn't it? I'd see as well. I'd be finding a place for Harry Wilson in the team. I'm fairly certain of that. Therefore, it's someone else. I'm going to say no. Cal says, evening James, would you sell Palmer this week? If yes, who would you recommend? Playing Rice, Wilson, Bruno, Boomer, Thiago and Haaland, double Arsenal defence and Joachim Anderson. Cheers, good luck. Downgrade. I think Bruno maybe appeals at this point. Maybe a player a lot of people can't get to. Otherwise, don't be, if you're sitting there with like a goo or something like that, don't be frightened to come right down to one of the Wilson clan, if you will, at that price bracket and get Ekiteke in, mate. Even if that's a -4. Nick Span says, hey James, found myself with 1 FT, no easy Rice replacement, 1.3 in the bank. Is it okay to roll and play Rice or get Boomo now on now that the Vert ship has sailed on Wildcard 32? Yeah, I think getting Boomo is okay. No, wrong playing Declan Rice. I think a lot of this is like, there's a lot of shiny toys here and I see everyone else buying them. Like, keep him Rice. He's not the second highest scoring midfielder in the game. It's good, mate. It's good. British Cheap House says, evening James, up the Spurs, bench Timber or Hill, start the Bravcore, Pickford and Timber to start. Neil Beds, you're very welcome. Hooley says, trying to fund Bowen to Ekiteke, Rice to Wilson or Timber to Anderson, could just roll to 3 FTs, starting Rice and Hill, benching Bowen alternatively. I'd slight preference for Rice Wilson. Slight preference. And I would advise yes to do it to fund Ekiteke. Thomas Thornton says, good luck with the game. We're undecided between Ekiteke and Haaland cap. Do you mind adding your rationale? Want to go Eki, but feel Haaland might bang too. I've got nothing to add in terms of the rationale on top of what you've just said, mate, because I agree with it. That's the rationale. Probably not a good idea. Thanks, James. Gay leads away or Anderson, Elliott, Brighton away. Hit the like button, folks. Toss a coin that. Again, I think it'd be goals lead City, but I also understand there'll be interest in O'Reilly, bits of Gay ownership, bits of Nunes ownership. If they do clean, does it hurt a little bit? Anderson's probably not going to hurt. Personally, I'd probably go Gay. Asif Elm says, is the point of holding on to transfers for the past few weeks to transfer out the teams that blank in 31? No, it's better to manage the period of from 31 to 34 is more what it's for. Barry Morrison, hi James, play Rayan or Garner. Rayan. Sandeep says, Gordon punt, don't hate it. Emma says, benching dilemmas are stuck on page 2. Are they still stuck again? Better not be. Nah, see, they're moving. FPL Skelosorge says, hey James, would you play Matthias Nunes or Anderson in defence? Thanks. Nunes like O'Reilly, the upside offensively and stuff. Yeah, probably Nunes, yeah. Matt Eldridge, what FPL planning tool we're using that's great? FPL team, it's the best FPL planning tool in the universe, in my opinion. Can't recommend it enough. It's pretty much the only thing I use for my FPL stuff. Jan Lonaka says, would you sell Palmer to Dango to upgrade Krupi to Ekiteke? Wildcard 24 play. Would I sell Palmer to Dango to upgrade? Yes. Ahmad says, yeah, I've got that, mate. It's sorted. Adam says, what do I do with Cherky, James? He's getting on my nerves, constantly benched, but I know if he starts, he's an excellent diff and ready for a haul. It's a sell, mate. Cabacolicad says, benching headache, Rogers, Rice, Wilson, bench one, thanks in advance. Rice, reluctantly. British Power says, benching dilemmas, I've sorted. Capil says, start two from Hill, Munoz, Timber and Rice, the Arsenal players. Stuart Day says, hi James, free frees. Would you do Ronaldo to VVD for free or play two of Timber, Gay and Anderson? If making a move, which one of those three would you play alongside VVD and Gabriel? Would I do Ronaldo to VVD for free? Yes. And which one would I play alongside? Timber. Tom says, I envy your team. That bench boost is gorgeous. Thank you, Toms. Anyone would think I plan. I didn't plan to get it. I'm not going to bullshit anyone. I have had a lot of luck on this journey. Michael Linder says, bench Palmer or Bowen? Christ. Wow. I would sell Cole Palmer. And I'd be, if I didn't have Thiago or Ekateke, I'd be going straight in. Possibly, well, you probably haven't because you've got Bowen. So I'd be selling Palmer and selling Bowen. That's the right answer, even if it's a -4. Frederick Orr says, start one of Tarkovsky, Alderete or Goodmanson. Good luck with a bench boost. None great. Tarkovsky. Glenn Isaac says, hi James, start Saar or João Pedro. Alternative, sell either for Wilson or Ekateke. Sell. Chancellor, start Semenyo or Wilson. Semenyo. Dennis says, bench one, Saar and Senesi. I'd play Saar. Might have some space on the counter. Grap from Pricey. Hey, mate. Happy Friday. Bench one of Rice, Semenyo, Rogers, Bumo, Dango. Yeah, Rice again, unfortunately. Olomo, Seko, benches, Chalobah, Roden, Miley. Chalobah to Hill, just a strength from bench. Free transfers should need max 3 between now and 31. If you're not intending to use Hill, leave it be as it is. 2 minutes to deadline, guys. Just make sure you're getting yourselves locked in. Patrons, last call if we've got anything on team news. Glenn Ziak says, hit the like button if you want a green arrow this week. I can't hit it. I'm stuck here, unfortunately. Shads B, hold or sell Palmer. Sell. Jigsaw Kid, really struggling with captain this week. Then just go with Haaland, mate. Calvin says, hello, mate. I hope all is well. A fellow suffering Spurs fan here. Genuine question. Who do I start out of VVD and Chow? VVD all day. Hello, Linos. Ahmed's, would you bench boost Dubravka, João Pedro, Anderson, Chow? No. Perry says, hi, James. Would you start Saar or Bowen this week? Plays Bowen. Lino says, I play 2 of Timber, Nori, Nico O'Reilly even. Sorry. And Dyer. I'd play the 2 defensive ones. It'd have to be done, wouldn't it? I think. I've lost my place in the chat with 1 minute to go. He's not going to get to my question, is he? What's he reading from here? No, I don't really know myself personally after time. I've done that. Callum, start Hill and die penalty taker. FPL Trini, who would you bench for Anderson? That's Joachim. Timber, Gabriel, VVD, Rogers, Dango, Wilson, or just leave him first bench. We have hit deadline, I believe, guys. Thank you. Sorry, lots of questions in this week. I apologise to those of you who I've not got to. If you came just for the FPL stuff, smash a like, hit the sub button, have a good weekend. If anyone's got any non-FPL questions, pop them in the chat and I'll get them covered till the Wolves Aston Villa team news comes out. Before I do, let me plug some content. If you'd like to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. No ads content from basic tier. Basic Plus will get you access to the Slack community, my planner, and an additional podcast a week. You get all the additional podcasts, all 5 each week at Intermediate Plus, and at Advanced tier you get the additional video content stuff like the midweek FPL Dilemma, which I just decided out of the goodness of my heart to make available to all paying patrons this week. An opportunity to have a chat with me on a Zoom call at some point during the week as well with other Advanced tier patrons. For the patrons who missed it, by the way, July the 4th, get it in your calendar. I got a plan. It's a proper day out planned. I'm on the case. Difficult finding a pub around Black Horse Road, mine, but I'm on the case. I'm beginning to have little looks when I've got the time. Content next week. Deadline stream, obviously, on Tuesday. I believe it's a 6 p.m. deadline, so it would be 5 p.m. UK time Deadline. That'll be available for you on YouTube. Earlier in the day will be Clash to Correspondence Newcastle versus Manchester United with Simon Bibby and Alex Trembath. Suj will be with me for the Game Review podcast on Monday. What else have I got the rest of the week? Ask James on Wednesday. Another Game Review podcast on Thursday. And then the weekend with myself and David, obviously, on Friday, which will include a full detailed review of Tottenham against Crystal Palace next Thursday night. I will bring you some flavour of Tottenham, which should be one of the podcasts on Patreon next week. That'll be available on Wednesday. Q&A Monday. Gameweek 29 preview podcast on Tuesday. Money in Football, I think it's going to be Friday next week. And I got a quiz. Jack Blackbird's hosting a quiz for me on famous goals. It'll be available for you next Thursday as well. Plenty more advanced here. Like I said, if you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Otherwise, if you came just for the FPL stuff, smash a like, hit the sub. If you want to stay with me for the non-FPL cues, let's see what we've got. BT. Oh, no, it's one before you. I'll get to you, my friend. Sorry, I've missed one out here. Kasim says, a manager you think would have reached best in the world status but never did. Maybe Bielsa, and you can't pick Poch. I wouldn't have picked Poch. Best in the world. I'll give you a name that will surprise you, I think. Is Wenger. Because I think Arsene Wenger obviously revolutionised a lot of the stuff that happened in our league, right? And I think that ultimately he stayed at Arsenal too long. But what he did in this country originally was, he changed the game at the top of the title, and he changed the way a lot of teams played and the way they cared about science and nutrition and stuff like that. But I think ultimately, you could never have said he was the best in the world because even within this league, you couldn't really rank him above Ferguson. So I actually think, therefore, I think Arsene Wenger, if you'd have said to me it's sort of 98, 99, I'd have said, I think he's going to end up being the best manager in the world. I don't think that would have been like an outlandish claim, actually. So I think Arsene Wenger's a decent answer there, mate. BT says, non-FPL reactions to the UCL draw this morning. Arsenal fans are ecstatic. Thoughts on other English sides? Arsenal fans have every reason to be ecstatic because, genuinely, that it's a cup competition, so stuff can happen. But it would almost be a disaster if Arsenal didn't reach the semi-final. Semi-final, they will be favourites. I'm fairly certain of that. They will be favourites to reach the final. That helps them massively on the route for the Premier League title as a consequence as well. Because while Arsenal were probably comfortably seeing off Leverkusen and one of Bodo or Sporting in the quarter-final, City, if they beat Madrid, will probably then walk into Bayern Munich. Okay. Cool. Problem. Then once City have navigated Bayern Munich, they're probably dealing with one of PSG, Liverpool or Chelsea in the semi-final as well. Doesn't necessarily get much easier. Although should they see off Bayern Munich in a quarter-final, you might have a very powerful Manchester City at that point. So, but that's not ideal, man. That's really not. I think Chelsea, I don't know. Chelsea obviously would have had a better chance against Newcastle, but I see, every time I watch PSG, I see vulnerabilities. I don't think they're as strong as this time last year. I think the goalkeeper's weak. I think that's having a confidence, whichever one of the two plays, by the way. I think that's having a negative confidence. I think they're beatable. I think I'd be surprised. If you said PSG got to the final this year, I'd be surprised, actually. My instinct would be that it would be City or Bayern from that quarter-final. If you said now final, I would say the most likely final is Bayern Munich Arsenal at this moment. Tottenham, decent draw, might do us a favour to get knocked out. I actually think we would have had a strong possibility against Galatasaray. I said that on the weekend this morning. Liverpool shouldn't have any problems with them at all. For Newcastle, there's vulnerabilities in Barcelona. You can imagine Gordon in behind that Barcelona and Hansi Flick's high line. I think they'll have half a chance. Whether they'll be able to stop Barca the other way, Obviously, Newcastle may have the benefit of having played them earlier in the season at St James's Park, and in that opening sort of quarter of an hour or so, Newcastle give them the frighteners. Barca were a bit too good in the end, admittedly. I think that's everyone covered, isn't it? City, I think, will beat Madrid. Arsenal will go through. Liverpool will go through. You would think that Barcelona would beat Newcastle, I think. Obviously, you would expect Atletico Madrid to beat Tottenham. I think Chelsea PSG could be close. I do think Chelsea probably need their best availability available at the time. So people like Cucurella being back and stuff, they're little things, but they'll be quite important if Chelsea want to beat them. Otherwise, for example, I mean, look at what West Ham's right-hand side of Wan-Bissaka and Bowen did to Chelsea without Cucurella, right? Now think about what Hakimi and Kvaratskhelia or Dewey or whatever they decide to do with that side does, right? So there are little things Chelsea will need. But that's the closest. I think that's probably the closest one of the English ones to call. I would just probably edge for PSG to go through. But Chelsea will find them beatable, I think. I really do. My team give them a game even. Next up, Mark Raven Mad says, non-FPL, which London derbies, including those involving teams that are currently outside the Premier League, would you rate as the most intense? Define intense. So, like Millwall, West Ham don't like each other, right? Intense off the pitch? Sure. On the pitch? It's not comparable, really, is it, to some of the other ones? So, in terms of the intensity, I mean, truthfully, it's Tottenham, Arsenal, then Tottenham, Chelsea, then Arsenal, Chelsea, then Tottenham, West Ham. From an on-pitch perspective, and I just mean that I put Chelsea, Tottenham above Chelsea over Arsenal because Tottenham is Chelsea's most important game to the fans. There might not be in context of league, but to the fans, they'll always be delighted to beat my team. They sing about us a lot, and don't sing about Arsenal quite so much. So the others would all be significantly lower. So in terms of like rivalry, if that's what you mean by it, like, you know, Brentford, QPR, Fulham don't like each other. Okay. Charlton, Palace. Wouldn't include Wimbledon in that. Orient to West Ham's not a thing. Millwall with these other clubs. Charlton, Palace, yeah, don't get on. Fine. So I suppose the ones involving West Ham, Millwall have a bit more needle and stuff. Perhaps reputationally, I guess. Interesting question. Glenziak says, thank you, James. You're very welcome. Connor Pert says, hi, James. Good luck with the bench boost. I'm curious why you're confident in Villa finishing top 5. Sorry, frog in my throat. It wasn't like I don't know. Sorry, my throat just got a bit stuck. So I think Chelsea will be the ones that miss out. So Villa have a 6-point advantage over Chelsea. Villa have significantly better fixtures than Chelsea. So if Villa do win tonight, I actually think Villa might slip up tonight. But if Villa win tonight, go 9 points clear of Chelsea, and Chelsea go to Arsenal. Would I fancy Chelsea to win at Villa in midweek? No. We might be sitting here this time next week. There might be a 12-point gap between the two teams. Right? If that's the case, Chelsea ain't catching them, mate. Truthfully, I think that gap will probably be. It might not be much more than it is now, but I don't think it'll be less than the 6 points that it is now. And from there on in, particularly sort of 31 to 36, Villa have an unbelievable run of fixtures now. They may have to contend with Europa. Maybe Chelsea go out the Champions League and it helps them, but the fixtures are much tougher. So I just think Villa have got enough on the board. I also think once they get into April, having the likes of Tielemans, McGinn will probably be back before then, will be really helpful for them. Abraham will take a goals pressure off of Ollie Watkins as well. I think Watkins needs that. So yeah, I think Villa have got the advantage. They've got the points on the board. They're on 51 points. I think to finish top 5, I think, what are Chelsea running at the moment? Chelsea running at 1.67 per game. So do some maths, James. So roughly 65, 66 points roughly for Chelsea at the end. Yeah, I think Villa 67, 68 points will probably be enough for top 5. Remember, top 5 will be a guarantee. So for Villa, that's 16 points from 11 games. With the fixtures they've got, they'll need shooting if they don't do that, truthfully. It might go into the 70s. I still think Villa will do it, personally. I don't think they'll be able to repeat it next year, by the way. DTAF says, non-FPL tried to look into whether there's any precedent of a club winning any European trophy and being relegated in the same season. So I thought I'd bring it to the Oracle. Could Forest be the first? As far as I'm aware, it's not happened. It would almost be amazing if it happened in another country as well. To my knowledge, it's never happened. I don't think the draw was the best for Forest today. Their last 16 game is pretty good against Midtjylland. But they'll have a tough quarterfinal and a very tough semi-final if they continue to progress as well. So they should win their last 16 game. Then Porto would be tough quarterfinal, and then they're possibly looking at Villa or Roma in the semi. So it'll be very tough. But they'll be as likely as anyone ever to do it. It's definitely not beyond. I explained this to Suj recently. It's really not beyond possibility that they won the Europa League and went down. By the way, I don't think Forest will go down, but I also don't think they win the Europa League. So, yeah, it's possible. Are you going to make the comparison about Tottenham? No. There's delusion and there's delusion. And I don't mean about relegation. I mean about the European competition. Sean says, hi, James. Sorry, this is FPL post deadline. If the doubles do indeed fall a bit shit, what's the alternative week to wildcard then and bench boost then? Potluck. No, it's not straightforward as that. So, couple of things. So the best advice, I'll happily answer this because it's more of a strategic question. And I recognise there's another deadline quite soon as well. So listen to the Chip Strategy podcast back. If you haven't listened to it, I can't recommend it enough. So a few things to consider. Outs. What's a bench boost out, right? So if you can't wildcard, so then bench boost, for example. So I've mentioned game week 30 as an out a number of times. The reason I say game week 30 is because at that point you've got information of FA Cup 5th round, you know the quarter-final draw, you have real clear clarity, at least on projections. You can be more confident. We can sit here now and go, I think Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea will all double, right? Well, they might all draw each other in the next round, right? At least once the quarter-finals happen, you know, right, I think these 4 teams will win. I think this will happen. It becomes clearer. So I've referenced 30 as an out. The big problem with that now is the Chelsea City spacing stuff. And they've both got good fixtures in 30, so that's really not helpful with their Wednesday, Tuesday Champions League turnarounds. From a fantasy aspect, you'd have been hoping more that like Newcastle, Tottenham, and maybe Arsenal, because Arsenal with the blank afterwards, maybe they had that sort of schedule. That's not the way it's fallen. It was never going to be Tottenham Arsenal together, by the way. That was impossible, basically. So that was an out. That now looks difficult. But if your team looks like it's bench boostable in 30, remember you've got more information. We will do another chip strategy podcast. I'll be honest, it's probably not going to be till the Thursday now on that week because I'm going to Madrid. Sorry, priorities. But we'll do that probably on the Thursday before the game week 30 deadline. We hopefully might even have Man City Carabao Cup final information, not Carabao Cup final information. Man City Palace rearrangement for game week 31 information if City have lost to Newcastle by the Thursday, maybe. So we'll do that again. I mentioned game week 35 as an out to potentially bench boost. I use the example in 35 that Leeds hosts Burnley and Sunderland go to Wolves, and you could just pick shit from those 4 teams, right? Essentially, it's the 3 promoted teams and the worst team. There's cheap stuff there, right? That you could look at as just an out. And Leeds and Sunderland particularly have decent fixtures because I carry these cheap guys. It's fine. It might need to be something like that from a bench boost perspective. I think there is a chance that in the running, it might be that it's 35 and you just have to go, I can't make this look good. I hope it gets 10, 12 points rather than it just being a blowout. And it won't look as good as now has looked for people, and you may have let that opportunity go and it might not look that good again, but it might also go the other way where it looks absolutely incredible in 33. There is no way of knowing this decision I've made now, there is no way of knowing pretty much till the end of the season. Whatever it does, you can get 20 points this week and we don't know it's the right decision. It could get 4 points. It doesn't mean it's the wrong decision because, as I explained on the weekend, my strategy path looks so much better, I think, moving forward, taking this route for me personally and my team. So the bench boost, if it turns out shit, it is what it is. Okay? It happens. When you time your wild card will be more important. And the answer to that will be definitive on what happens to 33 and 34. And there are probably too many right now to define what those is. But I'll say for me now, if I can, I won't do anything in 33. I hope that I'm just going to land okay. And for me, it might even be an idea of a free hit 34, wildcard 35. It might be wildcard 33, free hit 34. It might be free hit 33, wildcard 34, carry on. Right now, I don't need to care about that. But I do need to know that over that period, those 2 chips, wildcard, free hit, need to be used in and around there. That I know. Definitively. Even if it just means focusing heavy on 33, 34, right. Scrap the doublers now, 35, bang. And who knows? Might have something lucky like Sunderland and Forest suddenly have a double in 35 and I can wildcard straight into that sort of thing under that sort of weird circumstance. Go, I'm going to pick 6 of these guys up now. Why not? And maybe I've transferred in the bank to do a bit. So my advice on the bench boost would be, let's see how we look going into 30. I do think 29 is dangerous, guys. If you sit great and you feel really comfortable, fine. But it is midweek fixtures. A lot of teams have 3-day turnarounds. There will be some rotation, particularly for sides in the middle of the table, right? And maybe even sides still in Europe to some extent as well. So 29 might be possible. 30, we got more info. Very unlikely to be 31. It might even land okay for some people in 32, but I probably doubt that. We'll see how we sit. But if the bench boost ends up being crap and you just have to pick 4 shit players, you never know your luck. You might get your Dubravka suddenly rocks out the 12-pointer and it's worthwhile doing, right? So don't stress too much about the bench boost. I can't stress enough. The wildcard element, with or without bench boost, will be more important. I won't do any more FPL questions. Right, let's see if we got Wolves Villa team news. But before I do that, let's take on one more. Andrea says, what is your predicted bracket up to and including the Champions League final, James? What, Spurs? Okay, I presume you mean everybody, yeah? So, quarterfinals, PSG, Liverpool, City against Bayern, Atletico Madrid against Barcelona, Sporting against Arsenal, and then semi-finals, PSG, Liverpool, close. PSG, I think. PSG, Bayern, and Barca against Arsenal, and then Bayern against Arsenal final. That's what I got. And you can see those projections for the English clubs on sheet 5 of my planner. What do we have here next? Sorry, useless. I'm meant to be getting team news, aren't I? Jigsaw Kid, as a Forest fan, it pains me to say we're going down. Toothless up front, can't score. That's the only concern for Forest is the scoring goals element. But I'm telling you, it's not hyperbole. At this moment, you have a better team than me. You might not in Gameweek 32 if you pick up a few injuries. I get a few players back in the running. It might look a little bit different. But me and Sudra in agreement on Tottenham that we think Forest are the best of the 3 teams. But that's the one element that you lack. FPL Trini says, probably my favourite content creator. Good luck, James. Thank you, Trini. Have a good weekend, buddy. Jurgen says, what's your opinion on women's hearts? Not anatomically. Women's hearts. As in, like the football team, as in the women's team, Heart of Midlothian. Is that what you mean? I'm sorry, mate. I'm not going to give you a bullshit answer. I wouldn't have a clue. Do you mean the shape of hearts? Women are good, kind-hearted, lovely people most of the time till you marry one. Joking. Talking of lovely ladies. Amber Redmond's in. Says, what's the most showers you've ever had in a day and what the hell happened? No, Amber, put that in, put that in the Q&A, and In fact, just DM me and I'll tell you. I'm not answering that publicly because I do have an answer. Jigsaw Kid says, thoughts on Andy Reid at Spurs, my all-time favourite Forest player. Lovely left foot on him. Was not good enough. I'm afraid to say. Was nowhere near good enough. The pace of the Prem was a bit too much for him. He was built differently. He's a kind way. What I mean is he wasn't like your typical trim. I don't think he was particularly overweight. It's just how he was. It's kind of a bit like a kind of later Rooney in that extent. It was just built differently. But he wasn't as physically strong as he should have been with that build. Delivery good, nice long distance shot and stuff. Good over the top pass as well. Ultimately not good enough. Not quick enough to play as a winger in the Prem. And not good enough to play centre midfield either. FPL Trini says, would you have bench boosted Dubravka, Joachim Anderson, Krupi and Lacroix? No, I wouldn't have. So you can feel better about life, mate. Stephen Carr says, James, if the impossible happened and you won FPL, how would it affect the content going forward? Well, my instinct is that if I won FPL, which is what I'm trying to do here, by the way, I suspect there's a lot of other people who ended up bench boosting this week. But if I won FPL, my first thing would be to guess is we'd probably get a few more subscribers, 1 or 2. I imagine that in the comments and the chat, there'd be a lot more dickheads. Tell me what to do now, James. You know the ones I mean. So I wouldn't necessarily be good in my life. I might quit. I might just quit. You're not going to win it twice, are you? So I might. Thanks, guys. Peace. Do a 24-hour live stream as I end it. No, I'd carry on, mate. I'd have to carry on, wouldn't I? What difference would it make? What difference would it make to the content? I don't think a lot, mate. Difficult to say, right? It's imagining something that, truthfully, is just like impossible. Isn't it? It's difficult to imagine. I don't think. I think at that, like the demand for FPL content would obviously go through the roof, right? But it's not what's got me here in this content that is going, right, I'm going to put this video on, go, this person's better than this person. And I don't want to take that route. I don't think it make a huge difference to content. It'll probably make a huge difference to my life in terms of more support on Patreon, subscribers here, etc., etc. To content, to be honest, Tottenham getting relegated is more likely to change the content than me winning FPL, I think. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Jay Barker says, do you ever bet on football, James? Very, very, very rarely. Like if you said to me, what was your last bet on football? I don't know. In fact, I do know what it was. It was last weekend of the Premier League season 22-23. I had a bet on the final day because the odds on the sides that were fighting relegation, which was Leeds were playing Tottenham, Leicester were playing West Ham, and someone else. Can't remember. Burnley played Newcastle. The odds on the teams playing those bottom three were just too good to be true. But Leicester beat West Ham, so I stuck a few multiples knocking about on Newcastle, Tottenham, and Leicester and West Ham that day. It shouldn't have been a huge surprise. West Ham was around about the Conference League final, maybe. I'm not sure if I got that right. Maybe it was the year before. In any case, I think West Ham lost to Leicester, if I remember right. Oh, no, I tell you what it was. Not Burnley, Newcastle. Yeah, so, yeah, we beat Leeds. I'd say the other one was Brentford to beat Leeds. Brentford didn't beat Leeds. I'm not sure if all 4 of them was that day. I can't remember. But yeah, Brentford lost to Leeds. It's that day. We beat Leeds. No. Leeds kind of played Brentford and Tottenham, you fucking idiot. Which year was it? No, it's not Brentford Leeds. It was definitely when Tottenham won at Leeds. Anyway, I didn't win nothing, mate. And it was with bid stakes here, 20, 30 quid, something like that. Occasional bets on major international tournaments. I might have a flutter on something, the World Cup if I fancy something, but just nothing stands out to me at the moment. Otherwise, no. I worked in the industry for over a decade, so I've seen the damage it's done to people and stuff. Certainly wised me up, I guess, a lot. So you can't win. You can't beat them. Not on a regular. Because I've tried. I've tried. This is going back a long time. I used to play the exchanges a lot when you could essentially fix profit before matches even started. It's too much noise on Betfairs and stuff like that now to bother. So no, very rarely, mate. Hollow G. No, let's do the team news. I'll get to you, Hollow. Wolves, sorry. Sarr, Mosquera, Bueno, Gomez, Chichua, Bellegarde, Andre, Gomez, Bueno, Mane, Armstrong. Brilliant, isn't it? We've got 2 Buenos, 2 Gomez. I don't know which Gomez because there's 2 Gomez on the Wolves bench as well. Literally, what have I just read? Okay, better go to Wolves' official account and see what the letters are. I'm guessing it's Toti Gomez and João Gomez. Yes, it is. Andre Gomez and Rodrigo Gomez are substitutes. There was too many Gomez's and stuff like that for me to take interest. So Tolera Rockader is a substitute. Be a nice advanced role there for Matthias Mane owners, although I don't suppose many of either. I don't think anybody asked about him on stream. I suppose he's a sub for most people. Villa, Pau Torres back in for Tyrone Mings. Sancho is in for Bailey. So it's Martinez, Cash, Conser, Pau Torres, Dean, Onana, Luis, Sancho, Buendia, Rogers, and Watkins. I just realised reading that Villa team, you have to have that slightly nervous moment this week where, oh, where's my guy gone? He's sick. Oh yeah, shit. I don't have a sub coming in for him. It is what it is. Next up is Hello G. Sorry, what will be revealed to be in the box at Elimination Chamber? Danhausen or something really rubbish for me. I'm going to plead the ignorance. I follow wrestling a bit. I've not really seen any of it since the Royal Rumble because I know a lot of this just becomes promo stuff to the Chamber and WrestleMania. So I don't know what the box is. So I can't answer that, I'm afraid to say. Vindaloo says, non-FPL, thanks for your excellent piece on our nightmare at West Brom. Shared it with non-fantasy playing friends who appreciate the content. Very welcome. I wanted to do something with Gemma and Harrison for a while because, Abe wanted to do something with them. Was just waiting for the right opportunity and time. And obviously, with Eric Ramsey, we didn't. I'd messaged Gemma last Friday because I sensed the time was right and it was building with Ramsey, where the fans were really disgruntled. And I'd read some stuff also about the finances being really bad. And I thought, yeah, now's the right time. So, yeah, good pod that. Didn't intend for it to be as long as it was, but Gemma speaks so articulately well. And we'd said off camera when we finished that Harrison first came on the podcast. We think he was 10 when he first come on the pod. He's still not a man yet, but he's going to become a good one, you can tell. Tabletop Journey says, hi James, good luck this week. Where do you sit on the Spurs Champs League campaign at this point in time? Nice distraction for our league form or potentially catastrophic distraction in the league. No. So ultimately, I want us to win and go through. And the one thing that's very clear with Tottenham at the moment is that the confidence is on the floor. Now, the confidence that could be built by beating someone like Atletico Madrid at White Hart Lane 4 days before hosting Nottingham Forest in a more important game could do some very good. The spacing for Tottenham's not too bad. So we obviously don't have an FA Cup game. So from Palace to the first leg, it's 5 days, and then it's 5 days to the Liverpool game. So at least in the first leg, with 5 days space in either side, there's no reason not to give it a really good go. Now, if we go to Madrid and we lose 3-0 and stuff, then there might be something to be thought about ahead of the second leg. But I think you can learn from playing good opponents and stuff. And I hope that we get through. And listen, in a weird world, and I know people say, oh, it's going to be a problem for Tottenham, etc. In a world where Tottenham win on Sunday, which I don't think we do, but in a world where we win on Sunday and we win the home games against Palace and Fulham, we'd be on 38 points going into the international break. And if we beat Atletico Madrid as well, then we probably need, from our remaining 7 league games, probably 1 win. You're going to tell me at that point you ain't all eggs in on the Champions League to give it a go. Now, listen, we all know we've got no chance in it. But, we ask these questions all the time, and I do it to the correspondents sometimes. You know, would you rather finish 4th in the league or win the FA Cup? But the answer so often, it can be both, right? Now, if we beat Atletico Madrid and we lose the 5 league games, I don't think it's particularly helpful. Not good. Do you know why? It's going to give us a bit of a problem in the Premier League, and it's just going to cost me a fortune to go to Barcelona and go back to Spain again. Sorry, Catalonia, before I offend anyone. Although, as my wife said to me, you do love a midweek trip to Newcastle, having already done it twice this year. Yeah, maybe there'll be a third time. So I sit on, mate, it being a nice escape of not being scared about results with other teams. And certainly in the first leg, let's give it a go. We highly likely get beat. Let's see what happens. James, is tonight the night Wolves smash past the Derby points total, says KC Wolf. No, I don't think so, but it might be the night that you equip. Ahmed, I wish you luck with your captaincy. Frode says, do you think Kjetil Knutsen can manage a Premier League club like Spurs? Maybe. It's a gamble. Ultimately, you watch the style of his teams and stuff and you think, yeah, it could be great to adapt. But I think in reality for him, most people fail at Tottenham, right? Whether that's the club or whatever, or ambition, whatever it is, most people go to Tottenham and fail, right? Before Knutsen fails at Tottenham and then finds getting another job very, very difficult to get, Kjetil Knutsen would be worth going to a club like Bournemouth if and only Iraola left, although I understand there's every chance he's going to sign a new contract now. If he went to a club like that, who I'd say is pretty safe, extremely well run, allowed a little bit of time under less pressure, and if he does really well, then maybe he makes the jump. Okay? That would be better for him, truthfully. The experience of going into Tottenham, I had no idea, mate. It ate Thomas Frank alive, and people thought that the amount of time he'd spent in Premier League, he'd be well prepared for it. The man was a PR. Forget all the football stuff. It was a fucking PR disaster. So I don't know how that would get handled. BT says, are we sleeping on how astounding this Bodo run has been? Out of season, just taking down Euro royalty. Any players to make moves to bigger leagues next season? So, is it Haug? The guy plays left wing, I think. Wow, he's a good player. But he's already had a spell in Germany and Italy, I think. And I read that he wanted to go back and play with his mates. Brilliant. I mean, it didn't work out for him. But apparently he doesn't hold major ambitions. I think Hoch up front is good. The boy in midfield, Berg, is a very tidy player as well. They've got some good players, right? In terms of like how good the run is, yeah, it's mental. As I said to David on the weekend, and it's true. Like with each passing week, our victory against them in you only beat Bodo Glimt in the semi last year. Looks all right now, doesn't it? I can look back on that and go, yeah, well, the following year, that Bodo team you'd never heard of, this is what they did. Yeah, I don't know how many sides have won Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan away consecutively in Europe. And also beat Inter Milan again at home and Man City at home. Wow. Yeah, brilliant. They probably lose to Sporting, by the way. It's a shitty draw for them. James Beautify says, World Cup question. Who plays across the front four for England in summer? Assuming Rice and Anderson start deeper. Kane, Saka, locked. For me, at this moment, if the tournament started tomorrow, Rodgers and Gordon would be my answer. No Bellingham, no Rashford, no Foden, no Palmer. No, it's all about fitting to what's best for the structure and getting the best out of Harry and the rest of the team. And those two, I think, at this moment are the best fits for that. That's my answer. If it's Jude, it's cool. It's good. I don't have a massive preference for Morgan Rogers over Jude. I don't have a massive preference for Anthony Gordon over Marcus Rashford, for example. But if the tournament started tomorrow, that would be my answer. Don't judge that on club football. Judge that on their link up with the other players who will play in the England team, such as Saka and Kane. And Declan Rice, very importantly in that as well, because he'll play a very advanced position for England. Juice Ballbeck says, hi James, if Spurs had all their players fit and were in a penalty shootout after extra time in the final, who would be your top 5 penalty takers in order? As in the Spurs team now, or am I picking all-time players? I'm assuming you mean current team. Okay. Solanke, definitely. Richarlison's taken a number, so I presume he would take one, but you'd be like that. Madders has got experience, but I remember him taking a penalty for Leicester against Man City in a Carabao Cup quarter-final. It was nearly the worst penalty I've ever seen. And I can't ever get that out of my head. I would 100% want Pedro Porro to take one. I've said that in the past. I actually said that a lot last year. I'd have Porro on penalties. So Pedro Porro would be one. Bentancur would be one. It took a decent one in the Super Cup final. I trust Rod. It's good technically. Kulusevski would have the arrogance not to worry about it. Kudos has taken some. Don't love the technique. So let's go with Solanke, Porro, Bentancur, Richarlison, Kulusevski. I think that's 5. Offside Foot, he says, do you think Arsenal double defence is still viable? Maybe they focus more on Premier League now. They have pretty easy opponents till quarters. Yeah, of course it's still viable. I just think for many people, it's a lot of people I think have sold some players this week that didn't want to. So like people were selling like Rice and Timber and stuff. I don't really want to get rid of Timber particularly. And ironically, if I hadn't gone Timber to Virgil van Dijk last Sunday, I wouldn't have been bench boosting today because I wouldn't have been able to afford to do it. Mad that, isn't it? So if I hadn't been sitting there 5-3 transfer in the first place, I said on Monday I wasn't desperate to get rid of Timber. It's like knowing that I'm going to end up making this sort of transfer. Jigsaw Kid says, fans that say it's better in the champ in terms of atmosphere and all-around experience, it's not. They're lying. Okay. I'm not going to repeat. I don't know. Adam says, do you think a Soccer Saturday style show could be done with FPL content creators? Yeah, 100%. 100%. The only kind of real problem with that is, truthfully, you'd be putting yourself on camera with people knowing that you're illegally watching a football match if it's recorded in this country. It's true. You'd be filming yourself on TV knowingly. I don't know if that's okay or not. I don't know. It's something I've thought of doing not as a content, but I have wondered about it when we've done a live show before. But it's the same thing. People have got to be prepared to smash out their battery and their data on their phones and stuff like that and watch games. I have wondered about that as a one-off concept. Regularly, I don't know. Why would it? Let's say, hypothetical, we were all here and I hosted and Clayton, Nico, David and Suj are all watching the 3 p.m. game each. Why would you choose to watch us rather than Soccer Saturday? Well, it's more intelligence on your show. Probably is, actually. But it's dumbed down with Suj in it, let's be honest. Sorry, Bust, mate, joking. Why would you choose? Oh, because you cover the FPL aspect of it. Okay, maybe. I'd think best guys to do it would be probably within house of something like Scout or the FPL Juice guys, something like that. Would probably Juice have got the great kind of setup in their studio where maybe they could make that sort of thing work if they wanted to. I'm sure if it was done, it would be quite popular. The other thing is, obviously, to run this with the graphics, right? You're on a delay. The word that I speak now, you're hearing in about 20 seconds. It's on a delay, right? And from experience when I did the Champ Man live streams and stuff like that originally, or even when I've done live streams and been other Premier League games going on or something, quite often it's all getting smashed in the chat before I know about it. And that's shitty for the presenters. And it probably works out a bit shitty for people watching along as well. Because naturally people are going to go in the chat and go, oh, he's scored. So I don't know if it can work in the same way. I'm not sure. But yeah, concept-wise, if someone wanted to do it, me personally, I think I do enough shit Monday to Friday. That's my time. And I'd never commit to something like that because what am I doing on a Saturday? Yeah. If I ain't doing it on a Saturday, I'm doing it on a Sunday. Can I have some time with my son, please? Patrick Ford says, would you accept relegation if it meant Champions League success? Yes. Yeah, sign me up to it. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to enjoy it in quite the same way. But ultimately, the pinnacle in football, for me, is either winning the Premier League or win the Champions League. So if my team can win the Champions League, do I suffer one-off relegation? And chances are we probably come back. Yeah. Yeah, win the Champions League. Yeah, I'll take it, yeah. But, as per the earlier point, we could stay up and win the Champions League. Not likely. It's way more likely we get relegated and just lose to Atletico Madrid. Jigsaw Kid says, Saka and Gordon are quite underwhelming, but they're good partners for Kane. Thank God for fire sticks, he says as well. Okay, I'll leave it there. That's gone on quite long. I'm now going to go home and eat some dinner and watch Wolves and Aston Villa and check my bank account and see how much I've spent on Madrid today. Love you lots, everyone. Thank you always for your continued support. Smash a like, hit the sub button. Have a great weekend. If you're on Bench Boost, I hope it goes particularly well for you. Fingers crossed, although Joachim Anderson getting sent off is absolutely fine with me. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you on Monday.